Bandwidth for this podcast is brought to you by Ideate Software. Be sure to check out all of their great Revit applications designed to increase your productivity. Here we are. We're recording a BIM Thoughts. You're listening to a BIM Thoughts. And we're so happy that you're listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't record this if no one would listen. And we know a lot of people listen. You know who you are. And if you tell a friend, we'll have twice as many. And if they tell a friend, we'll have 4 times as many. So on and so forth and so forth. So do that. That would make us happy. And you want us happy, don't you? All right. Well, here we are. We have 2 guests. And we have a co-host. We have the Carl Storms with us. Hello, Carl.
Hello, Bill.
How the heck are you?
I'm tickety-boo, as the saying goes.
We also have Ian Marks. It's Ian, though. I screwed up a name again. That's not like me. I usually
Not like
get
you at
names
all.
perfect. And we have Alexine. Did I get that right? Did I say it right?
Ding, ding, ding.
Yay. All right. You're both going to have to define yourself, and you're both going to have to do it at different times. So whoever wants to define themselves first can start.
My name's Alexine Gordon-Stewart. I'm I guess we could say marketing expert now. I've certainly been working at it long enough. I'm in AEC. I was previously at Struxsoft and BIMTrack and now marketing director at TestFit.
Wow. And what do you do there other than marketing? What is your claim to fame? What makes you so exciting?
I like to help build brands, and the way I like to do it is to make things easy to understand and to help people do their jobs more easily.
Right. And brands don't apply just to companies.
No.
And they don't apply to entrepreneurs. They do apply to entrepreneurs, but not to just entrepreneurs and companies. It also applies to everyone, I think.
Totally.
I think if you're a BIM manager at a company, or if you're just a drafting one person, you have a brand, and you need to develop your brand so the company knows you exist. And when it's time to move somebody up, they know that you're the right person for that job.
Absolutely, Bill. Someone once said to me, if you're not creating your own narrative, someone else has already created one for you.
Right.
And that's really stuck with me throughout my career.
Yeah, and you don't want your narrative to be a sad story or a horror film. You want it to
I'm sure there's a way you could spin that too, but maybe go for something a little more positive.
Ian, define
Yes.
yourself.
Well, my name is Ian Marck, and I am currently head of marketing and growth at EasyMovie, which is a B2B platform for video. And I also used to be very recently a growth hacker for BIMTrack. I worked with
Wow.
Alexine for 1.5 years, almost 2. And before that, I also had about 4 years of experience with B2B software, SaaS, basically 2020 for rendering, interior design, and office management. And also I had a previous past with e-commerce, notably within Walmart for Latin America and also for United States.
Wow. I know somebody who's at BIMTrack.
Who, Bill? Who?
The BIM side himself.
I think it's Carl.
It's true. It's true.
It's true. So finding these 2 great people to talk to today was pretty easy then.
It's kind of like getting the band back together.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
All right.
And it's been a long time, even if it doesn't sound like it's been a long time. We have been the 3 of us at off times on and off, especially working remotely. So it's going to be our first official voice gathering for a very long time, 3 of us.
Absolutely.
We're missing beers,
a very
though.
Small world. We're missing beers. We're missing the Avail bourbon nights.
Oh yes. That
The
feels
Augie
like a
beer
long
bash.
time ago. That feels like a very long time ago.
The Augie beer bashes. We're missing that.
Just the adult beverages in general.
Yeah, well, I don't think we're missing the adult beverages. I think we're missing
company.
the
Correct.
company that
That's
comes
right.
with the adult beverages. So, Carl, I'm going to let you lead this conversation.
You're gonna give me the reins, Bill?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Absolutely.
It's a rare opportunity, so I'm gonna take it and run.
Okay.
I think really the idea behind getting these great guests to join us today was I heard a podcast from our sister podcast, the Simply Complex podcast, and they were talking
Uh-huh.
about marketing in the AEC industry, and
Uh-huh.
they had Sasha Reed on there.
Mm.
And one of the things she said about marketing, and she mentioned full well that she's not a marketing expert, but she's done a lot of it throughout her career. And she said when it comes to AEC, you need to know the art and you need to know the science behind the marketing to really make it work. And when I heard the term, art and science for AEC marketing, that absolutely made me think of Alexine and Ian.
Oh.
So I thought, that would be good to have a discussion with people that work on sort of both sides of that equation, that's what they do, you know,
Mm-hmm.
every day in, day out, and kind of take a look at it because it's different. It's not like, doing marketing for social media or other things like that. The AEC industry is a bit of a unique duck, and
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of our own little niche. So I thought let's get some people in here that spend a little time playing in this sandbox, if you will. And I think we
Yeah.
got off to a great start about the branding. I know I was
Mm-hmm.
fortunate enough a few years back to spend $5 on the website Fiverr. If you don't
Oh
know it,
yeah?
it's a great
I don't
website.
know.
It's graphic designers for hire,
Oh.
essentially.
Oh,
So
Fiverr.
for $5, they
Really?
will design something, and that's where the BIM-Sider logo was
Really?
born. And
So
yeah,
you spared no expense.
well, I doubled up. I spent $5 American on the
Yes.
design, and then I spent another $5 to get
Wow.
complete ownership of the digital and editable copies of that. So
Wow, that's
I,
like
I
$300 Canadian.
it was a big investment on the Canadian side, that's for sure. But it was the best $10 I ever spent.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, that's my story into the branding. That's as far as I went, but it's done me well,
Uh-huh.
and it's also a very long-winded, short intro to the session. So with that in mind, maybe I'll toss over to Ian to sort of get us started with what your thoughts are with sort of the science side, knowing that you've done not only AEC but also outside of the AEC, so you've kind of seen both sides.
Sure.
What are your thoughts?
Well, actually, I also welcome you to play the ball on the standpoint that I am rather new to the BIM industry AEC with direct and indirect experience of no more than 3 years and a half. And Alexine was working with me and she had all of this experience forever. So my experience can become more of a newbie crash course into what is BIM, what is AEC, what is all of this together. And her experience can really be like that maven that tells you who is who in the industry and how does it all play together. I believe that's part also why we really did a good job together, because we had not only this part of data and art, not only this part of verbal and cognizant, but also this part of new versus classical. Not traditional, no old, I'm saying classical. Yeah, disclaimer.
Careful.
Disclaimer.
And we're talking to two of the original mavens as well, Ian.
Exactly. So it's very interesting that when I arrived, I already knew who all of you were without you necessarily knowing me. Being said that, it also talks about your branding. And a fun fact about branding is that personal branding has really spiked among professionals, especially since we are almost forced to work remotely for a whole year. And we want to come with this name across. We want to come with our skills across. And that kind of fear of missing out, what are you going to do, is the same thing that we experience every day with our brand. Our brand is our babies, and we become very offended when something is not going right, and we also become very attached when something is going great. So just so you understand, as a marketer, it's always going to be as if someone is saying your name multiple times of a day. That's what we feel when we're always checking upon our brand. I don't know, how do you feel it, Alexine, but I was very vocal sometimes for good and for bad.
You know how I feel it. I think, and this is one thing, I've always really gotten along well with other passionate marketeers. There's what I call apples and orange marketeers, where they could be marketing anything and they're going to throw the same recipe at it. But the ones who get a little bit deep on product, a little bit deeper on industry, than necessarily, classically we would say that they have to. Those are the ones where they start to see the passion. That's where the flair really comes alive. And it was cool to see Ian bring that to BIMTrack with his fresh AEC eyes, and certainly opened my eyes to things that I perhaps wouldn't have noticed before.
So what makes up a brand? Some people may think it's just a logo, but it's much more than that, I would think. What makes up a brand?
Oh, that's a really good question.
I know, that's why I asked it.
I would like to start with the notion of brand. The term really tells you want to leave a trace somewhere. So that trace, it can be visible, it can be understood, it can be very subtly suggested. So I believe branding does not necessarily have to be visible. And I know most of the people are going to say, why branding is being outside? No, when you are in front of someone, your brand is also taking a tackle. You don't want to be too pushy, you don't want to be too soft. I would say one of the elements of branding is how you want to be perceived, but also how you want to be recalled over time. How do people want to believe about you across the time, not in the immediate moment? That makes a difference between advertising and visibility, and branding, which is leaving that trace behind you throughout the time.
100%, Ian. And I think it's almost a feeling. When you name, a big brand, you name Autodesk, you name a smaller brand that, that goes about things a bit more differently, it gives you a different feeling. When I say TestFit, it gives you a feeling. When I say BIMTrack, it gives you a feeling. And those are very different feelings. And that's made up of how we communicate. Yes, there's a look and feel element to it, but a strong brand should bring emotions to the surface. BIMTrack, you think connectivity, you think that sort of friendliness of the brand that's very much in line with that issue tracking notion. And Carl's more hands-on with that these days. But a brand should really bring that to life, and not just in like Ian said, not in an advertising revenue measurement sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
But it should give you, a strong brand should give you a feeling. And we have them about brands all around us, whether we're aware of them or not.
Well,
Right.
I think going back to Bill's point originally from when he started off saying that, now in this day and age, everyone should be making their own brand. And as Alexine, as you said, if you're not writing your narrative, somebody's already written it for you. So that sort of comes back to the idea that, brand doesn't have to be the logo, doesn't have to be a website. And someone from our industry that everybody knows that, hasn't created a brand or anything like that. But when you think of Marcel Scambolori and you've ever seen him speak, everyone knows what his brand would be, but it's not a logo. It's not big shiny flashing lights on a jacket or anything like that. It's his passion for the industry and for sharing it, and everybody knows that. And it's just him. It's just his persona. So I think that kind of leads into sort of everything that we said here. Did I get that right? Does that still fall under the category of brand?
Totally. I would say experiences take a toll on your memory. So if the branding is joined with an experience, it's easier to evoke an emotion at any given moment. It's easier to create experiences, and thus you use different tools for creating a memorable experience, and then you can call it branding.
Like parties at AU.
Or night out with friends, or one-nighters working together. Don't only party.
That's very true. That's very true. I would like to name drop a resource for people who would like to work on their personal brand. I think, like you guys said, it's very important, especially for BIM managers and firms, to get that recognition from above that sometimes people in the more technical roles don't always get.
Right.
And that would be Teal HQ. It's launched by Dave Fano, who's ex-Case and ex-WeWork. They have some fantastic tools and masterclasses at really reasonable rates. Everything from building your personal brand to vetting your CV and LinkedIn profile so that when bots crawl it, it's going to work for the jobs you're applying for. Just some really powerful tools and personal job trackers. The people who are looking for that extra bit of input but don't want to shell out, $1,000 for a career coach, might want to check out. I think it's Teal HQ. Teal
HQ. Mm-hmm. And their website is not teal.
You mean the color?
The color, yeah.
Oh, well, all of us SaaS companies tend to merge into a white, colorful
Yeah.
oblivion.
That's another thing. I believe that it was about, I don't know, the 80s that this color theory came out of psychology, and then everyone started calling it um, subliminal advertising, and how do
Hmm.
marketing and advertising dominates your brand and your head, and they basically make you do whatever they want. I would really like to point this out because unfortunately, many times when you evoke or marketing, they believe that you're right away giving a pitch and trying to sell something. Uh, Color is just a state of motion, and in line with this branding experience conversation, it's very striking that in AC industry we have black, we have gray, we have whites, we have shades of blue, and that's the most color
Hmm.
you normally get. And it would be really exciting to see in the upcoming years, especially with startups, or especially with different tools that add to that ecosystem. What are they going to bring in terms of palette and color? If you want to do something visible, they're definitely going to stand out. But if they want to be relatable, they're definitely going to stay closer to what we already have. So
Hmm.
that might give you a hint or when they want to go.
Like TestFit orange.
Yeah, not
Well, we
blue.
did.
And that bright blue, yeah.
When we started BIM 9 years ago, we did orange and black as our logo colors, which
I
people
like
thought
that.
we were funny, or not funny, but like, why did you pick orange and
I
black?
love
Those don't go
orange.
together.
Orange
We're
is
like, well,
friendly.
think Harley Davidson. They're orange and black. That seemed to
Ooh.
work.
Very true.
Very true. Yeah. Yeah. So we branded
Aspirational.
ourselves there. I brand myself at the company I'm with. I create a sticker every year. Have let people put on their water bottles that goes along with the company. Like last year's was having a great day at LPA.
Hey, good swag. Good swag is
Stickers are
very important. We spend more time than you would think working on swag.
yeah, good swag is good. Even just for inside my company, swag is good because the CEO knows who I am. She
Mhm.
says I'm having a great day at LPA when I talk to her.
Nice.
So yeah, that it goes a long way. Just creating those little things like that. Like we have a architect, or yeah, I'll call him an architect, in our company that wears a bow tie, and he's the only person that wears a bow tie in the company.
Yep.
And so that makes him stand out.
It really does. You think of people's Twitter images,
Uh huh.
Melissa Thiessen's and
Mm-hmm.
her beautiful pup who sadly passed. But for the longest time, and then that's how you meet people at these trade shows. You see them,
Right.
oh, I'm the dog, or I'm the bald guy with the bow tie. I think of
Mm-hmm.
Keely Pomeroy in New Zealand. People have these very unique Twitter profile pictures, and the ones who are active on there, that really becomes part of their brand.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's also probably something that will evolve rather quickly within the upcoming months. People used to be a little bit scared of putting their own personal, I'm going to call them live or family events, into their branding, because they were like, no, I want to be professional, I want to break through. But right now that literally there is no physical limit between both of them, you see every time more and more people enjoying family times while they're working, and that becomes part of their personal branding. I cannot tell you how many, for example, managers or directors are just like showing up that they can balance that work life, and that makes people want to work with them because they know how to balance it. And it is also very good stand for personal branding. I don't know if in the AEC you know someone in top of your mind, but it is definitely something that I'm not scared anymore to show you. My plants, my dog, my babies, and my lizard if I have one. It's all part of the same brand.
Very true, very true. But it's still to people's comfort level. I keep
Hmm.
my kids off of my work social, even though I share quite a lot else on there.
Hmm.
And it's up to people how they choose to divide that. But yeah, I think showing that you value balance, and that you value that people have a life outside of work, and that you appreciate that brings new things into the workplace, is very important, especially for senior leaders.
Mm-hmm. And even how you hold yourself in a meeting is part of your brand as well.
Very much so.
So what else is new, exciting in this world we live in?
Well, I would say exciting, but the lack of trade shows has certainly been an interesting one.
I know we talk about trade shows all the time here on the BIM Thoughts.
We done
Aw.
miss them.
We miss them.
I miss friends. I miss industry friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about the travel life? Like, I don't know, for example, when you are in a trade show, the rush I believe that you get from a trade show is equally for every participant, but the way you have to live it throughout the day is very different. And when you're in marketing and you're responsible of a brand precisely, it's kind of like a different experience when you have to carry 1,000 of things and still
Oh
dress
yeah.
up. And if you're a guy, you have to take care of your armpits not showing up, but at the same time you have to smile through the whole day and drink lots of water without going for a break because people are going to leave.
Right.
That kind of rush is really different from a keynote speaker, and I know they're
Right.
really in their mind. They're almost like the Olympic game players preparing their speech. So how do you leave trade shows and the rush
Yeah.
during the trade shows when we were able to go to them?
I have lived at. I have done 3 different roles at a trade show. I have been the vendor,
Hmm.
manning the booth. I have been a speaker, and I have been just a participant. And I will say the participant is the easiest one.
It can be exhausting though. Walking,
Yeah.
all that walking, not sure, like trying to pick the best class to get to, trying to pick
Oh,
what party to go to. Like,
I have.
granted, it is
I've
easier,
given up
but
in trying to pick the best class and really agonizing over which class I should take.
you could just follow it on Twitter
Years ago.
anyways from the booth. Or is that just
Well,
me?
it's not that. It's just that I'll go through it real quick, and the first one that catches my eye is the one I'll take in that time slot. And if the class isn't any good, I leave and go to another one. It's I don't have no shame in leaving a class that's at a thing. I mean, he's got he or she, the speaker has got 20 to 100, 300, 400 people depending on the conference in the room. They don't know who you are.
One thing I do love about the lack of trade shows is that it's forcing brands, maybe forcing is the wrong word, but I've always been a big fan of a strong content strategy. Explains things simply, help people. You're not then flogging something, you're giving them solutions and genuinely helping them. When you combine that with, different press publications and their digital content online, that starts to become a really good recipe for success. And I love that it's a continuation of what we used to try to do at trade shows. You're having good conversations, you're trying to figure out what people's problems are, and you're trying to offer them solutions, which isn't always just product. And it's cool to see that pivot online. Really cool to see that.
Because the solution could be you.
I mean, at the end of the day, that is essentially what we're trying to get to. But
we're trying to sell ourselves if we are just a participant of a conference, or we're trying to get information out of other people to make our jobs that we do better and easier.
There is also a lot of empathy that we are. I'm believing that with 2020's learning curve, we're all getting to muscle up on empathy. We need to understand that people will not follow a linear process because we are people. We are always going to deviate. We're always going to be creative. So the fact of being able to replicate that dynamic that we have in a booth, for example, during a trade show, where you talk to me but you listen, and perhaps I don't have everything that I need to say in my brochure, but then I am willing to go for my boss and put it in front of you and then help me out to understand what you're going through, is a two-way street. Normally, you cannot have that in traditional communication. Even marketing traditionally during the 2010s was always, yes, send people to your profile. Yes, tell them to do this, tell them to do that. At some point, you have to listen. At some point, you have to stop talking and listening. And I believe that is also starting with new experiences. One of the examples that I've seen recently is it's actually not from the AEC industry, but it's an online event, kind of like the one Broker had in 2020. It's called Unleash by Outreach. And they sent me swag before the event. And they had not like Autodesk last year with "Do not open or I'm gonna kill you." That was really exciting, by the way that you create that expectation around it. But they had swag that was used during the presentation. So they were talking about an example, and you were given the example instead of looking at the slides. So it was really a gift, but at the same time, it was used as part of the content, and the content strategy, as Alexine said, is tied up into that conversation. It just makes you remember what they were saying because you're always going to physically have it next to you. That's equivalent of giving you SWAT from a booth and bringing it to your colleagues.
Exactly. And like bringing this back into personal branding a bit. I think one of the most powerful things people can do, particularly on social media, and we see this a lot, is everyone's talking about them. Put yourself in your target audience's shoes. Say you have a blog about Revit and you want you want to help other people, but you obviously want to promote your brand as well. Talk about what's in it for them. I cannot tell you how many partner calls I have where I literally call them out and I say, you did this social post last week. And if you cut that video from 2 minutes down to a 6-second GIF, took out all the rest of what you're talking about, you and what you're doing, and said, hey, are you struggling with this? Check out this for XXX. The more you put yourself in your reader's shoes in every bit of content you put out, the more you're building that sort of online, almost two-way conversation. They feel heard when you speak in that way. And it's something that I think a lot of both brands and personas miss.
Isn't that like dating 101?
It's been a long time since I've dated, Carl, but I
Yeah,
assume so. Don't you just swipe now for that?
Well, isn't that the whole problem? That kind of brings it right back to the same thing. Is that nowadays you're swiping right or swiping left to give me the video, give me the content, but it brings back to what Ian said, that sometimes you have to listen. And I think the idea of saying, you know, rather than watching that 2-minute video, which we have attention spans of gnats nowadays, but
I do.
that quick little GIF, which is, you know, that's the marketing equivalent of the decade right now. You gotta be in the gift game.
And
But
that's
exactly
something TestFit are kings of, and they were kings before I joined. I think that's like our most fully written out process, is how to make a perfect GIF. And people laugh and people say, you know, social media doesn't lead to sales. I literally have one from Instagram right now. A powerful GIF shows exactly what your software does. And if it's doing something that people haven't seen before, it is going to result in attention and leads.
I absolutely think it does, and I think that comes back to maybe a step aside from branding, but to conferences and to networking and to putting in the time to get to know people and their needs, and not expecting the sale. So that may not lead to, or your social media may not lead to the sale or the question now, but 2 years from now, when they have that need or that requirement, they remember you, they remember your content, they remember your session, and that comes back. So when they have two things, everything being equal, the person they know is where they're going to go.
That's it. And the AEC is we are a small community. I know there's a lot of AEC professionals out there. There's a lot of goodwill. Everyone wants to help everyone. And if whether you as a personal brand or as a company try to add to that goodwill, I firmly believe those good things come back to you.
I was going to say that it's perhaps my reading, and you as being more experienced in the AC industry would have more to share about it. But I have impression that another particularity we have, and we are very much in a comfort zone, is that in the AC you don't have a regular pace of rush. Like, for example, if you're in retail, I cannot tell you the stress that you had day over day because one day you were already late for tomorrow. And in the AC industry, if you really understand what you're doing, your projects are really well structured and you have multiple roles, multiple people taking care of different areas, and there is a lot of work to be done. But there is this basic notion that you need order, you need planning, you need quality. And that really helped me as a marketer. And I'm going to say that last 2-3 years, precisely that I got the time to refine my tactics, my strategy. I was able to polish what I was doing for people. It was not like all over the place. I finally had the calm. I finally had the thoughts to put it into beautiful words, into beautiful designs. And AC is really a good place to understand that you need to do quality over pacing, because the industry is really rich already in terms of education. You don't need to repeat yourself. You don't need to always be telling stories about yourself and your solutions. You can just rely on your colleagues, do networking, read, listen other people, and you're gonna learn a lot.
Yeah. And when you do speak, genuinely add to the conversation. Again, whether it's as an individual contributor or as a brand. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's just general words of wisdom for me, and is spend that little extra time. So, a lot of times people are going to say, well, we do a ton of stuff in AAC. We're too busy. We don't have the time. And it doesn't matter whether they're working on 17 projects or one. It's the same mentality. We don't have time. But once they spend that time, they realize to take that time and to do it right. They see the value. It's just like that comic, and I don't remember where it comes from, but
Peanuts?
we'll put it in the show notes. It's not a Peanuts comic, but it's the one where
Garfield?
it's a comic book caveman, but he shows
Oh.
up with a round wheel, and they're struggling pushing the cart with square wheels, and we don't have time to look at round wheels because we're too busy pushing the square wheels. It's kind of like that. You have to spend the time to make the time.
And you should make it easier for your target audience. And even if you're an individual person in a company, decide, is my target audience my peers? Is it my peers within the firm, outside the firm? Is it people higher up? And tailor how you speak on social media to that. It's still you, but it's a version of you tailored to where you want to go and what you want to achieve. I think understanding who you're talking to and really starting to understand that, we call them persona in marketing speak, but understanding that if you're a brand, who is your beachhead? Who are the customers that are easiest to sell to, that give you the least grief on support, that see it, get it right away, and it's the shortest path to sale? How do you get more of those and stay focused on them while not alienating, secondary markets and things like that? And it's the same concept as, as an individual working on your brand. If I want to be principal in a firm, people don't make their managers principals that often. I want to break the mold. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to target my stuff to capture the eye of the principals, but while not alienating my peers as well, who will also, influence my career as I move forward.
Absolutely. And if you want to be principal at your firm, you need to let the other principals know that you want to be principal in the firm.
Yep.
Yeah, raise that hand up high. And make sure there's someone in the room speaking on your behalf.
Well, that and they can mentor you to become a principal at the firm, because you may not be ready to be a principal at the firm.
That was an amazing lesson from last episode podcast. I know you were talking with Vicky Patel Harris, and she was precisely telling, go for a mentor, even if she's totally out of your league. You don't work anymore with that person. She might become your stakeholder when you're doing the next step. And that's totally true.
Absolutely.
That's a huge thing in AAC, Ian, that took me so long to understand, that everybody's shy. Like, I remember I used to be so afraid at trade shows, and I know you guys who know me now probably would laugh imagining that, but so afraid to talk to these hosts, like the Revit kid. I remember I was like, oh my God, I can't talk to him. I don't know him. I was like less than a year in AAC. I'm like, well, what do you have to offer? And the truth is, everyone's just as shy as you are. So put yourself out there. It's a lot of introverts in AEC. And you never, ever know what will shake out. I've got some amazing mentors from just, starting to be a little bit fearless with that. It doesn't always work out, but for the few times it does, wow.
I think it works out more than it doesn't.
Agreed.
Because usually you know who the person is you don't want to talk to. If you've been around the conferences long enough. People don't talk to me all the time, so they must not want to. Just go out there and say hello. Make sure the principal knows who the heck you are and knows your ambition and what you want to do. Because if you don't tell them, they're not going to know. They may think you're just in it for the ride and are going to be leaving the company soon or what have you. A lot of just the way it is. It's the nature of the beast. But yeah, ask for that mentorship. Otherwise, you won't get it if you don't ask for it.
How do you balance, especially you, Carl and Bill, when you are working, I'm going to say a full-time job, but at the same time, you're working on your personal branding, you're working on a project's branding like this podcast. How do you balance that notion of it's me speaking now And my colleagues, for example, they don't want to talk anymore because they believe they're going to be on record. So do you ever struggle managing two branding guidelines when you're talking?
Well, if you run into that colleague who doesn't want to do it, you find a different colleague that does want to do it. I mean, it's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
You just keep asking until you find somebody. And you can't get any of this stuff done without help. You can't do everything on your own. There just isn't enough. There isn't enough time, and your network isn't large enough. Not your computer network, your people network, your people that you know network. The more people you know, and the more the people know you and want to help you, the bigger your network becomes. My LinkedIn network is that large because I spent the time to make all those links. Where with Twitter and all that other stuff, I'm not making the time to create great content, so I'm not getting many people following me. So it's about where do I want to spend my time? Do I want to spend my time trying to build my Twitter? Do I want to spend my time trying to build LinkedIn? Do I want to spend my time creating great content for BIM Thoughts?
Mhm.
Do I want to spend my time driving my Jeep around in the desert and getting lost?
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but I think, like you said, there needs to be like a certain amount of humbleness. Like I know I came into TestFit, I love to write, and I thought, oh, I'm going to write all these blogs, and white papers, and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized I'm working with a lot of people who are smarter than me, which is always an awesome position to be in.
Right.
It's one of the reasons I loved working with Ian. I was like, dude, why are you making this so painful? Like, work with them and like get them to write it, and I can manage the execution. And we talk about all this building a personal brand and whatnot. I don't think people should mistake that for an ego. If you bring your ego into it, it's not going to go well, and people can smell that a mile away in AEC.
Right.
You have to want to help people. You want your product at the end of the day to be the best that it possibly is, and that's usually a team effort, even if it's for your personal brand.
Yeah, is it my personal product or is it my work product that I'm working for? Because like it or not, everybody at your firm is a salesperson.
Exactly.
And if you don't think that way, then that's not good. You need to at least think about it in a way that no, I'm not going to be selling. I'm going to be promoting the firm in a professional manner. And that's part of being a salesperson too. You don't have to get out there and sell your firm. You just have to get out there and do and respect your firm.
Mm-hmm.
And respect the other person. And that's selling the firm.
That's it. By doing that, you're representing the firm well, and it is inadvertently selling it. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And same with your own personal brand. Respect your personal brand, respect the other person's brand.
That's kind of exactly it. The idea is that when you get into doing something like this, like the podcast, the blog, the speaking, you do that. Speaking from my own experience, but I think it's a general thing. You do that because you're passionate about it. You do that because you enjoy it. So you start things like this that add extra stuff that we're helping to contribute to the AEC community. It's because we like doing it, because we get joy out of it. If it wasn't something we enjoy doing, we wouldn't be putting in time after our regular job. It just happens to be in the same industry to do it. And I think that's, like you said, Bill, that kind of shows it in the content that's put out there. What is it to say? It's not a job if you enjoy doing it. Well, these things that we do as side projects are our passion. So we do that because we enjoy doing it. And I think the other key to Ian's question is the fact that we do it together. Mm-hmm. So that's the nice thing, is that not everyone wants to do it all the time. So you have a group that works together, and everybody sort of takes a bit of the workload and shares it in place, and that also makes it a little bit easier, so that you can take that time to go out and stroll in the desert, or sit and watch Netflix, or whatever it is that you need to do when you don't want to be doing AEC content, because there are times when enough's enough.
Yes. Well, any final thoughts? We're at an hour and a half.
I would really like to point out that I'm still following very closely the AEC industry, and especially I really like that in terms of different voices. There is every time more and more people willing to express in their own words content. I just did a very quick research, and I found out like about 7 different new content pieces about what is BIM in my own words, in my own thoughts, and one is from a construction company, the other one is from an architect's firm, and the other one is from a YouTuber. There are many ways of having one single idea. None of them are wrong. None of them are the ultimate truth. So quality content can always live forever. And you just have to dare to say it and to speak it out loud. And sometimes it's going to evolve with you. Your mind is also going to change. So in terms of communication, marketing, personal branding, just never be shy of keeping the change ongoing with your words and with your mind. And you're going to be surprised. For example, me, I just went literally from specialist to VP responsible of a full team. And it was because I dared to like change my ways, my mind, my voice. But Alexine brought the best in me in terms of telling me, you should do it. This is what you want. Don't be shy about it. Take it. And it's up to other people to listen to you or not. That's why it's very interesting. We have tons of offers. Every time there is more and more players in the industry sharing great content. So there's always going to be a room for one more.
Thank you very much for being on BIM Thoughts today. I learned a lot. I always learn a lot on BIM Thoughts. If you are in architecture and you need a position and you are in one of the cities that LPA's at, Dallas, Irvine, Sacramento, San Antonio, San Diego, or San Jose, there are openings at LPA Design Studios. So take a look there. Any final words, Carl? I know that you like to have at least something to say at the end.
I don't think I have any final words. I lied because apparently they do, because they're coming out of my mouth right now.
There you go. See how that works?
I just wanted to piggyback on what Ian said, that the lots of great new content out there in the AC industry, and focus specifically on that. He said you just have to do it. And a lot of people say,
Yeah.
well, there's been a ton of Revit blogs out there, or content or videos on how to create a family. But the way that you create the video, or the way that you describe it, or the example that you may use may resonate with somebody that doesn't resonate with someone else. So yeah, don't be afraid. Just, if you want to share it. How or where, or just get it
Yeah.
out there. And like Ian says, it keeps growing. And that's the beauty thing about the AC and the AC communities, that we really are a big bunch of people that love to share and get the knowledge out there. So
That's it, Carl. And there's so many I can think of, like Revit Pure, BIM Corner, that really started only getting properly rolling, I would say, this last year. Hassan Humer's YouTube channel, just super passionate guys who are just like, we are going to do this, and doing it in their own unique spin. And it resonates with people. People feel that passion. It's awesome to see the industry continue to advance. I love it.
Yeah, when I started BIM Thoughts and when I started the YouTube stuff, I said, okay, I'm going to start it. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I'm going to start it. And I'm going to give myself this amount of time to do it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm going to spend this amount of time and try to commit to this number of episodes, or this number of blog entries, or this number of tweets.
That discipline, Bill, is key. And I think that's the hard thing people have with getting going. I don't say you're going to do one blog a week. You're going to kill yourself.
No, I'm going to do this
Reasonable.
for a year, and I'm going to get this, and then this is my measure of success. And if I meet that measure of success, then I'll continue to go. Hopefully time flies and you are enjoying what you're doing, and don't be afraid to start something you don't know how to do. Because if you don't start something that you don't know how to do, you'll never know how to do it.
And don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, AC community is so helpful, and comes from anything from your microphone setup to hosting your own web page. Asking, ye shall receive.
Right. So thank you so much for listening, and make sure you have a great day wherever you are.